Oh my God, you ruined my life. I curse you, Haliey Welch. You took all of my money. I can't even afford shoes no more. What up, fam? It's your boy, Slender Boy 2024, streaming to you live. I made, if you saw it, if you caught it, I made a recent short where I was just kind of being goofy. I was just, doing my bad Southern Hick Slender Boy impression. I was kind of taking shots at Haliey Welch for the meme coin scandal, but also taking shots at her fans that she exploited. Don't get me wrong, like, it sucks that those people lost their money, but at the same time, I'm also kind of making fun of some of these people I see where it's like they're crying, they're saying like, oh my God, like I invested my whole life savings into meme coin or whatever. I'm like, bro, it's hard to feel bad for you. It really is. We're like, I don't understand Bitcoin. I don't pretend to understand, the blockchain or Bitcoin. But like, from what I understand, it's a big gamble. It's kind of like always a huge gamble. So you would never want to risk all of your money on it. That's just stupid. So when I hear these stories like, oh, I invested my child's tuition, like blah, 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 I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't feel sorry for you. Like, that was just you being stupid. Same thing with like people who are saying stuff like, oh, Haliey Welch betrayed me. Like, I trusted you, Talk Tuah girl. And I'm like, really? Like, you trusted her? I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Haliey Welch too. Like, I was one of the few people watching her podcast consistently, but you don't know her. Like, you don't know her. You heard a 5-second sound clip of her going, Hawk Tuah, spit on that thing, and then maybe you followed her podcast, but you don't know her. And like, you trusted this girl enough to invest your life savings into a stupid Bitcoin scandal, scheme. It's like, I'm sorry, I can't really feel sorry for you. Like, that's just kind of on you being a dumbass. Sorry. Like, you should not have trusted Hawk Tuah girl with all of your money. Sorry. But yeah, no, and this is coming a little late. Obviously, I kind of missed this whole like scandal that happened. This is something I made just to be funny, by the way. I don't know if investors actually got anything physical if you like bought into Hawk Tuah coin. I thought about putting it a couple dollars and just to be funny, but like, I didn't even do that. But this happened a couple months back, and her podcast went on I would say permanent hiatus because of this scandal. I've done 2 videos on the Talk Tuah podcast, and I wasn't gonna return to this subject, but like, honestly, I was struggling to think of like what to do for the next video, and everyone likes trilogies, right? So I felt like I had like one more Talk Tuah video in me. And considering like the recent controversy, recent, it's been a couple months, but you know what I mean, the recent controversy with like the Bitcoin scandal, I felt like I had enough to say to do one last video. So let's dive in one last time. I promise this is the last time I'll talk about Talk Tuah or Hawk Tuah or any of that bullshit. So I have a few stats here real quick that I promise like no one else has like looked at this podcast as closely as I have, but just to look at the view count, how the views have like changed so radically. So we had episode 1 way back when with Whitney Cummings. I mean, I had to look her up. She's a TV star, but like, which was never mentioned in the podcast, by the way. That would have been an interesting topic to discuss. Like, maybe her TV show, you could have like brought that up, Haliey. Anyway, but Whitney Cummings, it sounds like an adult movie actress. It doesn't sound like a real name. It is her real name. It is indeed her real name. But yeah, that's her first guest star. That was way back when episode 1 got 2.8 million views. It was a very big deal when the podcast first happened. I mean, that's how a lot of shows in general go, right? Like with the first episode, there's like all this hype. Everyone tunes in for the first episode, and then people start to drop off. That's typical for any show in general. But the way the numbers drop is very interesting. That's why I kind of kept a small record. So right away, she never gets those views again, by the way. Like episode 1, that was like lightning in a bottle. It was just people tuning in just for the comedy of it, like the hilarity. Like, isn't it funny that like this meme girl, this Talk Tuah girl, now has her own podcast? She blew up, overnight, literally. 2.8 million views. Episode 2, where she interviews Granny, 831,000 views. So like, still like not too bad. Like, she's still, almost a million views. But like, you see how already she's like cut her views in not even in half, like basically a third of what the views she had in episode 1. But still very good, views. Things drop off after episode 2. Things take a spike upward again with episode 5. That's the one I covered last time with the episode with JoJo Siwa. So that was 975,000. So that was very close to a million views. So hats off to you, Haliey. You got you got the debris is hitting me from the trees. That's interesting. You got like the one guest that people love to hate. So people tuned in for JoJo Siwa, myself included. But then things drop off right after that. Things drop off. The views take a small uptick in episode 10 with Jake Paul. But we see how this is still almost half of what she used to get. She used to get almost 1 million views. Even the episode with Jake Paul, 570K, views. That's basically half of what she used to get. And that was like an up spike from like episode 9 and so on. I haven't watched episode 10. I'm kind of curious because Jake Paul's another one people love to hate, but I haven't seen that yet. But but then the views drop after that. So the views really nosedive. I noted with episode 17, Chanel West Coast. I have no idea who that person is, and apparently no one else did. She interviews that person. Episode 17, 30,000 views. Which, don't get me wrong, like for my channel that would be great, but for Haliey Welch's podcast, where she once attained 2.8 million views, that's so sad. That's pathetic. Episode 17, 30K views, and then the episode that I watched for today's episode, episode 19, interviewing Mackenzie Dern, 47,000. So slightly, slight uptick in views for Mackenzie Dern, 47,000. Still very bad. I'll give you an idea. My most successful video was that Wednesday short that I did, where I'm eating like the BK Gomez churro sticks or whatever. That was 10,000 views. So the fact that Haliey Welch's video was like in the same ballpark as my Wednesday video, 30,000 views. That's really sad, honestly. Mackenzie Dern, 47,000. Episode 20 is technically the last episode. Haliey Welch tells all about the crypto. She calls it the crypto incident. We'll get into that. So I actually watched episode 19 and 20 for today. That went up to 100,000, 100K. So she's up, from 30K to 100K. So people were mad about the crypto thing, so they tuned in for that. So that her little plan there that worked, I guess. But even then, she could only attain 100,000, which is what 1/9 of what she once had with JoJo Siwa. That's still pretty sad. That's still pretty sad. The reason I did 2 episodes was, she calls it episode 19 was in the beginning of May, I believe, and like that's like the height of the crypto, scandal, and so she had to take a break, and she only came back for this one quote-unquote episode. So episode 19, her podcast is usually like an hour long. That's what episode 19 is. Episode 20, I don't even really count it. That's why I tacked it on as like a bonus, because episode 20, it's like 20 fucking minutes long. I mean, that was great for me. That wasn't much waste of my time, but it was only like 20 minutes. But yeah, that wasn't really a full episode of her podcast. And that was at the end of May, and we haven't seen or heard from her since then. So, supposedly she's like on quote-unquote hiatus. I don't think she's coming back. I think this like really did her in, this whole scandal, which is a shame because, I've never seen someone attain fame and wealth so quickly and also squander fame and wealth so quickly. She really had literally 15 minutes of fame and she blew it. She managed to find the one way to blow it. Never get involved with crypto. But let this be a lesson to everyone. Let Haliey Welch's story be like a lesson to everyone. But yeah, it's a shame because I always kind of hate watched this podcast. I never really liked it. I especially hated the JoJo Siwa episode. But it's funny because episode 19 with Mackenzie Dern, it was the first time I actually kind of liked it. I thought that was actually a really good episode. I mean, she finally kind of hit her stride, like got really good at asking the right questions and like having like a good atmosphere. Choosing a good guest was definitely helped. Mackenzie Dern, I'd never heard of her before, but she picked like a really interesting, cool woman to talk to. She's not Ronda Rousey. Like, I don't know the UFC world, but like she's another female UFC fighter / wrestler or whatever. And she was really cool. So you picked a cool guest who had a lot to say, and you also picked a cool setting because they were in. Normally they film in like their little like studio or whatever. But I guess Haliey and Mackenzie were both in Las Vegas, so they filmed in this like really cool Las Vegas showroom or whatever. And there happens to be like this crazy poker tournament going on at the same time, and so they talk about that as well. So they have a lot of really interesting topics for once. And I don't know, it's a shame. It only took her. I mean, every show takes a while to hit its stride, right? But like Haliey hit her stride in episode 19. It was a good episode, and then right after that, her show gets canceled. She has to do like. Episode 20 is just like it's torture, it's a chore, it's just like a contractual obligation episode. She just has to like tell a couple things and then that's it. So like that sucked. I would have watched like the real episode 20. It's a shame. Should I continue the podcast Should I do episode 21? Why not? Like I'll even get Slenderman 2024 over here. He can unbox like a sandwich or something. I'll talk about Wednesday or whatever. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. He can bring that girl. You see on his show now, he has like that girl, I think her name is Shmi or something, but like she's always talking about, she has like all this Transformers shit. She has like this huge Transformers like Optimus Prime tattoo and a poster, and like it was like a recent episode, I swear to God, like I never do this, I never do like a spit take like in the movies, but I'm watching the episode and she's like, oh yeah, like I just started watching the Transformers cartoon finally. I've never seen it before. And I swear to God, I was drinking like a soda. I was like, pfft. I like did a spit take. Like, what? You got a fucking tattoo? You have like you have a jacket and a poster and all this other shit, and you never watched the cartoon? Shmi, what are you talking about? Shmi! I forget. Is that her name? I'm just gonna call her Shmi because I think that's from Star Wars, isn't it? I don't know. Whatever. I'm getting so off track. Let's get back to Mackenzie Dern. So Mackenzie Dern is a Brazilian woman. She, I guess, has a Brazilian father that like studied jiu-jitsu and shit, and so she studied like jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai and shit. Like, she's really interesting. But like Haliey had some questions for her. I had some questions for her that was unfortunately not covered. I find like. So what Mackenzie did talk about, she talked about like the food and the culture and the geography of Brazil. I'm so curious about Brazil. I really am. Like that sounds like such a cool place to visit one day. So Haliey asked some good questions that I would not have come up with, but you guys know my interests. I'm a nerd. I like video games and comic books and shit. So like this is what I would have gone into. But like here's what my very limited knowledge of Brazil. Have you heard of the Zebo? I would have asked Mackenzie Davis, or excuse me, what's her name? Mackenzie Davis is an actress. Mackenzie Dern. I would have asked Mackenzie Dern about the Zebo, which is Brazil's own unique video game console. Look this shit up. This is crazy. Brazil has their own video game console. The reason I found out about this is because I was looking up like all of the ports of Resident Evil 4, which believe me, there are too many to count. But I saw that RE4 was released on the Zebo, and I'm like, what the hell is that? I've never heard of that before. It's like a really cheap console that, again, you can only get in Brazil, and it's like mostly ports of like phone games and shit. It's wild. Like, look up a video on the Zebo. I'm not gonna, this is not a Zebo video. I don't want to talk too long about that. But the other cool thing about Brazil, look at this, the Master System Evolution. I would want this right now. I would want this right now. It's like I got a cool Sonic blue design. So, long story short, I only found out about this recently because I grew up in the Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo generation. I didn't know about the Master System until like very recently. But like, yeah, there was a console that Sega did before the Genesis called the Master System. It was their competitor to the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System. It didn't do nearly as well as the Genesis. That's why a lot of people don't even know about the Master System. But the Master System wasn't a huge success in this United States. It was a huge success in Brazil, of all places, for some reason. And it's such a success that like this picture I'm showing you is from 2023. This system is still in production. Like, they're still making the Master System in Brazil. People are still buying it and playing it to this day. Isn't that fucking crazy? Isn't that wild? And again, you can look up like videos on this weird Brazilian video game. The Brazilian video game scene is so weird, and it's so interesting to me. But like this is what I would have asked Mackenzie Dern about. Maybe I don't know. She didn't seem like a gamer. Maybe she would have like no idea what I'm talking about. But like, I think she would know. I think she would know about this. But from what I can gather, the reason for all this weirdness is in Brazil, everyone's poor as fuck. Everyone's like really dirt poor. I mean, I don't even have shoes anymore. I can relate to that. So no one can afford, like, they can't afford, like, why doesn't everyone have the PS5? They can't afford it, bro. So like, this is like a cheap alternative. This is like a cheap alternative that you can find at like their version of like a Dollar Tree or whatever. And it's like, it's good enough. I just want to play Sonic. Like, it's good enough. The other thing is, that's why it's so important for them to have the Zebo, like their own in-house console, because the import tariffs in Brazil are absolutely insane. Like the amount you have to pay just to import shit from like the United States or whatever, they can't import an Xbox or a PlayStation. They can't do it, or at least 99% of the population is too poor to do it. So that's why they need something like the Zebo, or the Master System. Like, they can't play anything else. So that kind of sucks. I don't know. I feel like my little dream here would be like I would love to go to Brazil one day and like meet a Brazilian boy or whatever and like talk to him and like bring either my PS5 or maybe my Xbox One because I don't play that anymore. I would like hey bro, like your Master System is really cool. You want to trade? I'd like give him my Xbox One just to see his reaction. Like I feel like his face would light up and it would like kind of make my day as well. You know what I mean? I think that would be really cool to see. If I ever make it over to Brazil, but that's quite a trip. But I think that would be kind of entertaining. Anyway, I've gone on such a tangent because like this shit's more interesting to me than Talk Tuah. Sorry. All right, back on track. Talk Tuah. So, okay, so I'm gonna talk about episode 19, then I'll talk about episode 20. So Mackenzie Dern, yeah, like that episode was kind of chill. Like they talked about like poker, the poker tournament that was going on. They shared some poker tips with each other and some poker stories, and then yeah, they talked about Mackenzie Dern's career, what it's like to be a Brazilian woman / UFC fighter, and she's also a mother. So like they talked about like how they think she's like a strong woman because she's doing it all. She's like Wonder Woman. She's like a mother. She's a wife. She is a UFC fighter. She is a role model to young women growing up because as much as Ronda Rousey kind of paved the way for women in UFC, but Mackenzie Dern, she's taking it up. She's continuing to pave the way, so to speak. And they talked about how they shared some pretty good self-defense tips. Honestly, like it was a pretty informational, educational episode that I think a lot of young women should watch. Like, it was the first time I was watching it, and they're having fun. They're talking about how they like to get drunk and party and like smoke weed, and they're having some fun. But they do share some like really important information, some tips that I think all young women would benefit from. So yeah, I think a lot of people should watch this episode, believe it or not. But she shares some tips about how some self-defense tips. She shows Haliey and Chelsea like 2 different chokeholds to put on, if they're in like a bar fight or something, and like here's how you come up behind someone, and here's the difference between like choking out their arteries so they go to sleep slowly, and here's how you put your hand around their esophagus and like crush their windpipe and like potentially kill them. Like, there's the 2 differences. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, I'm like, let's go. Chelsea like learns the chokehold. I'm like, yeah. You want to try it on me, Chelsea? No, okay, that's inappropriate. And Chelsea mentioned she's single in the video too. I'm like, oh, Chelsea, come over here. Want to try test that chokehold on? Okay, all right, that's inappropriate. But yeah, Chelsea, I'm waiting on the bench now. But yeah, no. Mackenzie talks about how like even though, and she admits that like a lot of like whatever, like hardcore feminists will talk about like there's no difference between men and women, like we're the same, they'll like downplay like the strength difference between men and women, which is absurd. But no, Mackenzie Dern, she seems like a very reasonable person, which I like her. She seems she's a genuinely strong woman. She's a reasonable person. I would like to hang out with her. She seems really cool. But she talks about how like there is like a huge obvious difference like strength wise between men and women, but despite that she talks about how like as a young girl you kind of have the element of surprise on your side, like men that attack you, they're not expecting you to like kind of know a few moves, you know what I mean? And like Haliey Welch even says like this is a fun game I like to play, like when you watch one of her videos, by the way, pretend that like she's Sandy Cheeks from SpongeBob. Like someone pointed that out to me, and like it's so true. She literally has the same accent, the same pitch of voice. Like she has Sandy's voice. Like she is Sandy. So imagine Sandy saying all this shit about like she has a line about how like she used to be a cheerleader, and she's like, yeah, no, I used to smoke a big doobie of weed, and when they threw me up, I'd go wee. Like I'd really go nuts. I'd really be flying wee. I can't do her voice, but like imagine Sandy saying shit like that. It's so funny to me. It's so funny to me. But anyway. Yeah, Mackenzie was like, yeah, like, and Haliey was like, I bet you didn't see that coming from me. Like, I bet you didn't expect that from me. Like, she does like a move. I'm like, yeah, like Mackenzie's like, yeah, no, like, even though there's a huge strength difference, like, as a woman, you have the element of surprise sometimes, and like you have to take advantage of that. So like, get your hit in. It's not an official UFC fight. You can punch him in the balls really hard, or whatever you have to do to like get that one clean hit, that one good hit, and make him go down, and then you run. You have the element of surprise. Use it and fight. Don't be afraid to fight dirty, because you have to. There is that strength difference that you have to account for. So she gives some really, really good tips, and it's also funny because like I don't know. I feel like all of them are kind of like The video had a weird aura where they were like, all out for blood or something. Like Mackenzie was even asking them like, so have you ever like fought someone? And Haliey even asked her like, have you ever like fought someone in like a Target parking lot? And she's like, no, just in like sanctioned matches. Like, but Mackenzie's the same way. She's like, so did you two ever like fight or anything? You ever like roughhouse or like choke each other? And they're like, no. Like, and she's like, really? Not even like a pillow fight? Like pussies? Like, and they're like, yeah, no, not really. I mean, we're friends. Why would we do that? I don't know. Maybe where Mackenzie grew up, they were always like a little more into roughhousing or something. I don't know. This is a really strange question they kept asking each other. But yeah, and what's funny is it was seamless. It was actually a really Haliey did a really good job as a host for once, where she obviously she doesn't know a ton about UFC, but she kind of blended in the things that she knows about as like, a typical girl. Like she knows about like makeup, concealer, conditioner, whatever. All that stuff, contouring, I think she used that term, but like she played that up, but she was like, do you have to, and she asked Mackenzie, she's like, do you have to know stuff like that? Because, being a UFC fighter, I'm sure you get broken noses, you get black eyes, you get, a messed up a puffy face. Like, you have to know your makeup shit too. And she's like, oh yeah, I have to know it more. I have to know it more than like your average girl. And so that was like a perfect seamless transition where Haliey was able to use something that she knew and connect with Mackenzie, who, Mackenzie actually knew a lot about like makeup tips because of her profession. She has to like hide like bruises and stuff and black eyes and stuff. And so that was actually a really fun conversation as well. Trying to think. I'm probably forgetting something. Again, it's like an hour-long video. Oh. This was cool too. They just like talk about like what they like to. What was it? Haliey mentions how like, I could live without my phone, but I couldn't live without TV. And they have a fun conversation about like what TV shows they like. And Mackenzie's like, oh, like what do you like to watch? And Haliey's like, I watch you a lot. And that's like a funny moment because Mackenzie's like, oh, like you watch me, you watch my fights on YouTube. And Haliey's like, no, like it was a misunderstanding. She's like, no, I watch you. I like the show is called You on Netflix. And like, oh, okay, And that was actually, I wish Haliey would like review more TV shows or at least like tell us about more shows that she watches, because apparently she watches a lot of TV. And her description of You is really entertaining. I'd heard of it. I'd never seen You, and I didn't know too much. I knew it was a show on Netflix. That's about all I knew, and it was like a thriller or something. But like, look up that clip where she talks about You. It's pretty funny. It's especially funny when you think of like Sandy Cheeks describing You, because she's like, yeah, no, there's this guy and he gets obsessed with women and he keeps killing them by accident. He's like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Like, I'm actually a good guy. like imagine Sandy saying that. It's actually really fucking funny. Oh my God. But yeah, no, really, really good episode all around. Like, definitely her best episode yet. So it's unfortunate that was also kind of her last episode. So okay, episode 20, Haliey Welch tells all crypto incident. Let's get into that. Again, I don't really know too much about crypto, and neither does Haliey, apparently. It's like she openly admits, she's like, yeah, I have no idea about any of this shit. I just kind of got paid a fee to be like a spokesperson to like put my face on, to like literally put my face on the coin, to like, advertise and promote it. But I never saw like any profits from the coin itself. Like I had no business in that. Like that was completely handled by somebody else. And that's why Haliey's not in jail. Haliey clarified that like she's not in jail. She is not facing any sort of like litigation or anything. There is a huge lawsuit involving the other people involved, but she kind of managed to sidestep all of that. And she talks about like the investigation, how she had to hand over her phone and everything. And she was cleared of all charges. But she also explained that like, yeah, like she had to stay, and it was for like legal reasons. She wanted to defend herself. She wanted to speak up for herself and say like, no, it was this other guy. But for legal reasons, she couldn't say anything. And I understand that side of it. I understand how frustrating that must have been, where you're not allowed to say anything and everyone's just accusing you and calling you horrible things and, blah, blah, blah. But, there's a but. Haliey, if you openly admit to not knowing about this thing, why did you get, she saw a dollar bill, wasn't it enough that didn't you make enough money off of this podcast and selling all of your merch and shit? She got greedy. It's a classic story. She saw dollar bill signs. She saw an opportunity to make even more money with the stupid crypto thing, and she took it, and now completely bit her in the ass, and now she lost everything. She lost the podcast. She lost her fans. She lost her clout. She lost her fame. Like, it's over. Like, she's already done. I swear, she's probably going to try and come back in some form, maybe with another podcast or a music video or some weird project or something, but it's not going to work. like she's done. I've already shown you how the views have just like, skydive. She's done. All for a stupid, get rich quick. And she already explained in the video. She was like, yeah, like all of the marketing fees that I made from this Hawk coin, I had to spend in lawyer fees because of this whole litigation process. So it was a net value of 0. She didn't make any money after all so it really was a complete waste of her time. So good job. I mean, I don't know anything about Bitcoin either, Haliey. That's why I don't invest in it. That's why I don't get involved in shit that I don't understand. You know what I mean? I would either do the time, do the research, and look this shit up. I know it's boring. I know it's like something out of your wheelhouse, or don't get involved. She trusted her agent or manager or whatever, and look where that got her. The one person I would say look up a man named CoffeeZilla. And she talks about him in her video. He's kind of like, she calls him the crypto wizard, the cryptocurrency wizard. Yeah, he knows his shit. He really knows his shit. Like I don't know anything about it, but like listen to CoffeeZilla's videos, and you'll like learn quite a bit about cryptocurrency. He understands it all. And there's a great video that went viral. You probably heard of this too, where Haliey was in like this is right after like the whole crypto thing blew up and like the whole scandal. From what I understand, and it's very complicated, but basically there were a lot of pre-sales of this token where insiders had like the edge, where they were able to buy it up like whatever 97% the day, like a day early or some shit. Like regular Joes like you and me who put money into it, we didn't see a dime. We lost everything. It was only like insider trading or whatever that's frowned upon. All the inside clicks, like they made their money and no one else did. And even Haliey didn't make any money because she wasn't really involved. She was just the spokesperson. She was only paid a marketing fee. So anyway, but yeah, that whole thing was a scam. It was what CoffeeZilla calls it a rug pull, if you will. And like that's apparently a thing that happens a lot, that is considered illegal. But yeah, apparently people try and get away with rug pulls a lot. And so there was like this big like live stream where CoffeeZilla's in there and he's like yelling at everyone. Everyone's yelling at everyone. No one, like it's a while. It gave me a headache trying to listen to it. But Haliey's just there, and she's keeping quiet. She obviously has no idea what anyone's talking about. But like CoffeeZilla, he's giving like the blow by blow, like the point by point, and you can tell Haliey's manager is like talking out of his ass, like making shit up, and CoffeeZilla's like calling him on all of his bullshit, like point by point. And this is the part that went viral. So Haliey, and she explains it in her own podcast, but she's basically being fed certain like lines to say by her legal department or whatever. But it's gotten to a point where like obviously they just need to cut his feet. Like she needs to like hit the ejector seat, because like this conversation is just digging her a grave. She needs to get out of there ASAP. That's what her team is telling her. So she's been silent for this whole time. CoffeeZilla's in the middle of a rant or something, but she interrupts and she's like, and this is the clip that went viral. She's like, anywho, sorry to interrupt you, sir, but anywho, I gotta go to bed now. I'll talk to you guys in the morning. Bye. She just like, and again, she sounds exactly like Sandy Cheeks. She sounds like a cartoon character, and everyone in the chat is just like flabbergasted. The guy that's like talking, he's like, okay. Anyway, I guess the stream's over. She just left. Imagine like you're in a police interrogation and they're like grilling you, and you're like, oh, sorry officer, it's Betty bye time, it's 10 p.m. I gotta go to bed now, and you just like pull out a pillow and like go to sleep. That's basically what she did. She basically hit the ejector seat and flew away like, anywho, bye. And after that, it was like total radio silence from her for a while, until she made that episode 20 of the podcast to sort of clarify things. But even that was bullshit, because it was her best friend, and people in the YouTube comments called her out immediately. They're like, well, I mean, you kind of answered some stuff, but like, like how about you like actually have a real interview with somebody? Instead, she had Chelsea, her best friend, asking her preloaded questions, like questions that they obviously discussed beforehand. It was the most like softball interview ever. And she like totally played the victim. She's like, oh, I had no idea. I'm innocent. I had no idea. There are no legal repercussions for what I did. And yeah, there's no legal repercussions, Haliey. That doesn't mean you shouldn't at least feel a little guilty. And she basically says like, oh, I'm sorry to all my fans. I'm sorry that I betrayed you, or like you felt you lost money because of me. I mean, you're a multi-millionaire at this point, right? Like, if you really felt bad, wouldn't you try and like reimburse the fans who lost money? Like, I think she probably has the funds to do that, right? Like, I mean apparently she lost all of her Bitcoin money in like the legal fees, but like she was a millionaire before that, right? So if she really wanted to, she could have I don't know, reimbursed the fans somehow. I don't know how that would have worked, but like she clearly isn't even gonna try. She just thought like the bland apology would work, and then she disappeared once more into the ether. Yeah, I don't know. I don't hate Haliey Welch. Like, let me be clear. I kind of do. Like, again, I was kind of following her podcast. I think there's a reason she blew up. I mean, obviously she's pretty attractive, and she has like a nice personality. She's someone that you would want to hang out with at a bar. Like, she's kind of a party girl. Like, she has like a nice personality, like I said. And then like hearing about her, she talks about herself a little bit in her podcast. I mean, that's the dual edge of the dual-sided edge of becoming famous is everyone learns about you. So like she's pretty open about her past, because she's like, well, everyone's gonna find out anyway. And it's in the first episode with Whitney, I think. She talks about like, yeah, no, like I live with my granny. She never mentions the father. I don't think he's in the picture at all, but she lives with her granny. And her mom, she's estranged from, because she said like, yeah, my mom was a crack addict and I'm a crack baby, and so like my mom's not in my life either, and so she was just living with her granny. She was just kind of like a normal working class girl. She worked at a freaking mattress spring factory in Nashville, Tennessee or whatever. I was briefly in Nashville. Nashville looked pretty cool, and it was all in good fun. I was making fun of like Southern people in my video, but like no, I've been to the South. It's cool. It's a cool place. It's just you kind of have to adjust. You have to kind of. It's a very different environment. Like I think it was in Nashville, but like either that or Texas. But when I was down south, I went to a restaurant and I saw in the window. Imagine going to like whatever, a Friendly's or Denny's, but in the window it says like there's like instead of a no smoking sign, there's like a gun. It's like, please don't bring your firearms into the restaurant or whatever. I'm like, oh, that's a little different. They have to have a sign for that. Yeah, the South, it's just different. The South is very different, but like I did enjoy it there. I do. The people there in general are very friendly and fun to be around. And Haliey Welch, like, again, I don't bear her any ill will really. Like she's, I think, what is she, like 22 or 23? She's a very young girl. Like she's a party girl. She got in over her head. She got like rich overnight, and like so many other people, she didn't know what to do with it, and she kind of squandered her potential, her fame, her potential. But she squandered her fame, her 10 minutes of fame. She got involved with this crypto bullshit. Like I don't even understand crypto. I have a college degree. Not in math. What did I study? I was a major in women's studies. It turned out to be very different than what I thought. Yeah, that's a story for another day. But yeah, I have a college degree. I don't understand this crypto bullshit. Most people don't. But yeah, Haliey certainly didn't. She's a 23-year-old girl who's getting involved in like a crypto scam, and of course her face is plastered over all the coins. So like now she has to deal with the fallout. That sucks. It sucks that your fame is already over. It's funny, all the fans, like all the people on the YouTube comments, they all say the same thing. They're like, if you just did nothing, if you just did your stupid weekly podcast, you could have kept that going for maybe not forever, but for a long, long time. You could have kept that gravy train running, and then you didn't, and that kind of sucks. You know what I mean? It kind of sucks that like you couldn't keep that going. You kind of had to shoot yourself in the foot there and ruin everything with your fans. Oh yeah, a recommendation as far like a good podcast that I tune into. If you've heard of Behind the Bastards, I would check that podcast out. They actually have an episode on cryptocurrency, so I learned a little bit about it from Behind the Bastards. And it's one of those, the more you learn about the crypto bros, the more you hate. Like, I already hated them, but like the more you learn, it's like, just they say this in Behind the Bastards, it's so much worse than you think it is. Like, it's actually really, really bad when you find out like how many resources are being devoted to this bullshit thing that nobody really profits from. Like, because they have to keep these I'm sure you've seen them. They have like these like kiosks at the mall, or like these crypto banks, or these crypto ATMs, if you will. They have to keep those running. Those cost money. Those cost power. They suck up a lot of power to keep those things running, and they have to keep them running 24/7, or else the whole blockchain goes down. And like they say this in Behind the Bastards, they're like, yeah, no, like the amount of electricity required to keep all these crypto banks running 24/7, it's equivalent to the amount of electricity to power a third world country. Think about that. Think about that for a second. Like, it's such a colossal waste of resources. It's such a colossal like waste of like damage to the environment. Like, it's all for this stupid coin that nobody likes, that nobody understands. I hate it. I don't know why this even became a thing. I wish it would just like go away. That's the other thing, is like people go into like, well, it's a great anonymous way to make purchases so that it's not tied to your, you know, card or your bank account or whatever, so that like it's a good way for people to like buy drugs and stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's make that easier. First of all, that's already problematic, but second of all, hey, you know what's a great way to purchase things without leaving a footprint? Cash. Remember that? Remember when cash was I hand you $10, you hand me the, you know, illicit DVDs or whatever, and it's done. There's no footprint. It's just a $10 bill. You know, what happened to that shit? Look at all this trouble we go to for the anonymous, you know, the anonymous purchases online or whatever. Fuck that. Fuck crypto coin. Go back to cash. I want everyone to go back to cash. That's my that's my 2 cents for the day. Anyway, I think this is a good end to the Talk Tuah trilogy, a good send-off for the Haliey Welch trilogy on my channel. If anything else, you know, really relevant or important happens involving her, I doubt it. But yeah, I'll make another video if something else like really significant happens with her. But until then, see ya.